The clientele is bizarrely normal within the context of Rye. Trip. The skeleton is attempting to scratch a record on the jukebox with his skeletal finger. Corky is meticulously stacking beer mats. Daniel sighs, wiping down the bar with weary precision. Daniel. Another quiet Tuesday in the land of the perpetually confused. Trip. Muttering. Glaswegian. This turntable is pure mince. Man. Can he get the beat to drop? Corky. Gentle. Deep voice. You need better synergy. Trip. Like cork and glass. Joe Camel saunters up to the bar, adjusting his sunglasses. He flicks ash onto the floor, much to Daniel's internal annoyance. Joe Camel. Jizz a light. Sun. And a whiskey. Rough. Like the North Sea in November. Daniel ignores the request for a light, already used to Joe's chain-smoking presence. Daniel. You smoke filterless. Joe. You don't need a light. You need divine intervention. Joe Camel. Geordie accent. Maybe. But I'd still bet on me. Godfrey. The grey and white horse. Is slumped in a booth. Looking utterly dejected. Chewing a carrot slowly. Godfrey. Yorkshire accent. Divine intervention? That'd be Summit. Last time I saw divine intervention, it was a fella selling bad spuds. Daniel. To himself. If only I could see bad spuds. Or, my actual kitchen. Bill Clutterbuck enters from the cellar steps, covered in dust and cobwebs. He is carrying a large, unmarked glass jar filled with yellow-tinged liquid and what appear to be pickled onions. Bill Clutterbuck. Daniel. Lad, you want to take a look at this? Found it right at the back of the pantry, next to the emergency rum rations. Been down there since Noah was a child. Bill places the jar carefully on the bar. Daniel eyes it suspiciously. Daniel. Looks like something that should have been thrown out during the Boer War. Bill. Bill Clutterbuck. But the label's gone. Could be prize-winning preserves. Or a forgotten science experiment. Daniel. Or botulism. Bill leans in, squinting at the contents. The pickled onions are unusually large, and irregularly shaped. Bill Clutterbuck. Hang on a minute. Those aren't onions. They look vascular. Daniel leans in, peering into the murky, vinegary depths. He sees something unsettlingly organic. It's round, pale, and possesses an unmistakable, if very small, mustache. Daniel. Bill. Is that a face? Bill Clutterbuck. Whispering. Good heavens, man. It is. And it's staring. Suddenly, a muffled, highly irritated voice emanates from the jar. It is tinny, slightly acidic, and thick with a German accent. Adolf Hitler. VO. From the jar. Ach, must you stand so close? The condensation is terrible. I cannot properly evaluate the ambience. Daniel leaps back, knocking over a stack of clean pint glasses. The pub instantly falls silent. Daniel. What the? Bill Clutterbuck. Calmly, but pale. Right. Not pickled onions. Then. Adolf Hitler. VO. Pickled I am in a state of suspended aqueous preservation. And furthermore, the concentration of acetic acid is simply unacceptable. It burns the nostrils. This is not how a Reichsführer is stored. Daniel. Hissing. Bill. That's Hitler. In a jar. Bill Clutterbuck. Seems so. Bit premature, isn't it? I always assumed he'd be ashes, not a condiment. Joe Camel slowly removes his cigarette from his mouth, staring. Joe Camel. Well, I'll be dipped in nicotine. The fella's a bit rough looking, isn't he? Adolf Hitler. VO. Rough. I am an icon of the Western world. Who are these degenerate figures surrounding me? Where is the glorious German high command? And why does everything smell like malt vinegar and poor decisions? Daniel grabs a dishcloth and throws it over the jar. Daniel. Right. Nobody panic. We'll just put this in the back. Adolf Hitler. VO. Uncover me. You cannot obscure the face of destiny. The realization settles over the room. Godfrey groans mournfully. Godfrey. See? Told ya. Always Summit. Never just a nice quiet Tuesday. The pub's small back room, usually reserved for darts, now hosts an emergency summit. The jar, still covered by the dishcloth, sits on the center of the table. The committee is gathered. Daniel. Bill. Dawdle. Looking stern. Sam Payton. Toad. Wearing a tweed suit. Spuds Mackenzie in his trench coat. And Super Ted. Looking worried. Dawdle. Sharp. Bossy. We are agreed, then. This is the biological remains of Adolf Hitler, somehow preserved, alive, and communicating in a state we can only describe as pickle-based existential dread. Toad, an absolute marvel. Think of the publicity. Toad Hall acquires the greatest vinegar-based historical artifact of the modern age. Daniel. Toad, no. We are not turning this into an attraction. This is a problem. A world historical, ethical, and sanitary problem. Sam Payton. Welsh. Calm. Daniel's right. If word gets out, Rye will be overrun. We need to dispose of it. Quietly. Efficiently. Fire is usually the answer. See. Superted. Small voice. I don't think fire is very nice, Sam. Besides, I tried to use my cosmic dust to analyze the jar, but the vinegar neutralized the spectral energy. It just smells like a giant pickled egg now. Adolf Hitler. VO. Muffled. Insolence. I am highly flammable. Should the Jewish question arise again, one must be prepared. Spuds Mackenzie. Rick male voice. Sneering. The jar sealed. Mate. He's going nowhere. Right. Listen up. I know people. Dark corners of the street. You know, we could sell him. There's a collector in Belgium who pays top dollar for, like, fascist cranial paraphernalia. Real cash cow. This. Dawdle. We are not selling Hitler to a Belgian collector. Spuds. Spuds Mackenzie. Why not? Think of the profits. We could invest in, I don't know, a really aggressive line of novelty t-shirts. Bill Clutterbuck. We need a moral solution. Something that ensures he never bothers anyone again. Though I must say, the sheer logistics of having a working head in a jar are staggering. Daniel runs a hand through his hair. This is worse than dealing with the time Barney accidentally swapped all the sugar with salt. Daniel, look, I just want to get back to my life. I need to get out of Rye. And dealing with a preserved Nazi dictator isn't helping my mental clarity. Dawdle, we understand, Daniel. But as the only human here relatively grounded in contemporary reality, we need your modern problem-solving skills. Daniel, fine. Plan A. Bury it. Deep. Toad. Too pedestrian. I propose a dramatic, ceremonial disposal. We will launch the jar into the sun using a specially adapted, steam-powered trebuchet. I have one in my garage. Just needs new rubber bands. Sam Payton. Trebuchets and suns are expensive. Toad. Nonsense. Only costs a few shillings and a sense of theatrical flair. A sudden metallic clatter interrupts them. Dick Spanner PI strides into the room, his trench coat soaked from the light drizzle outside. Dick Spanner PI. They told me there was a job. A tricky dame in need of silencing. Turns out, it's not a dame. It's a jar. And it looks like it's been marinating in a bad decision since 45. Daniel. Dick. We need a way to make this disappear. Permanently. Dick Spanner slowly circles the table, his metallic eye sensors whirring over the covered jar. Dick Spanner PI. This city. Rye. Daniel. It swallows things whole. But this has history dripping off it like cheap rain on a fire escape. If you want it gone, you gotta cut the thread. Sever the connection. Adolf Hitler. VO. I approve of the terminology. Sever the connection. But not mine. I command refreshments. Perhaps a small beer, a pilsner, ideally served in a receptacle not coated in sticky grease. Dawdle. Scoffs. He smells like old pickles and entitlement. No pilsner. Dick Spanner PI. Here's the play, folks. You can't put history in the bin. But Rye. Rye has portals. The local geography is softer than a rookie's alibi. We find a weak spot, a dimensional tear, and we shove this little piece of pickled fascism into a dimension where vinegar doesn't exist. Superted. A dimensional tear. I think I saw one near the recycling bins last week. It looked like slightly wobbly paint. Daniel. A dimensional tear. I suppose that's the kind of solution you default to when you realize you're stranded in a purgatory populated by talking woodland creatures and novelty robots. Dawdle. Precisely. We need Sfrandkaz. He knows the wild, untamed corners of Rye. He'll find the tear. A dark, damp path winding through the woods. The air is thick and smells of moss and ozone. Sfrandkaz, the mighty gummy bear barbarian, strides through the brush, easily clearing fallen logs. He carries a massive, crudely fashioned wooden club. He is accompanied by Barney, the sheepdog, walking clumsily on two legs, and Kavi, barefoot and looking impeccably stylish despite the mud. Sfrandkaz carries the jar, holding it gingerly with two massive, green hands. Sfrandkaz. Heavy Russian accent. The little glass man is heavy, and he talks too much of hygiene and master races. In my village, we solve such problems with large rock. No complication. Adolf Hitler. VO. Barbarism. This is primitive. A true leader understands the aesthetic power of the Autobahn, not the crude impact of a large rock. Cavi. Smooth. American drawl. Honey, you're a head in a jar of onions. Aesthetics are pretty far down your priority list right now. Barney. Excitedly. Sfrandkaz. If we successfully dispose of the head, do you think I could get my picture in the local Rye Gazette? Heroic sheepdog aids in interdimensional fascist disposal. That's a headline. Sfrandkaz. You trip on air. Sheepdog. We are looking for dimensional tear. Yes. Dawdle drew map. Looks like bad ink smudge on napkin. Sfrandkaz stops, pointing his club toward a large, pulsating patch of air nestled between two ancient oaks. The air shimmers with all the colors of a TV screen that's lost signal. Sfrandkaz. Aha. The thin fabric of reality. Looks like bad washing machine cycle. Adolf Hitler. VO. What is this spectral distortion? I sense great untapped power. If only I could weaponize this instability. It could be used to wipe out the degenerate art movement. Cavi. Let's not give him ideas. Sfrandkaz. Silence. Little head. Sfrandkaz has method. Simple. Powerful. He raises the jar above his head, ready to launch it into the tear. Adolf Hitler. VO. Wait. I command you. If you throw me, at least throw me with precision. Use the technique of the discus throw, not the clumsy heave of potato peasant. Suddenly, a loud, high-pitched revving noise cuts through the forest. Toad bursts into the clearing in a vintage, bright yellow sports car, dirt flying behind him. He skids to a halt, nearly hitting Sfrandkaz. Toad. Halt. Stop. Sfrandkaz. Put the jar down. Sfrandkaz. Confused. Why? Dimensional tear wide open. Easy throw. Toad. I had a revelation. Launching it into the sun was insufficient. This requires a high-speed intercontinental delivery. I'm going to drive the jar straight into the heart of the Rye volcano. It will be spectacular. Barney. Volcano? That's much better for my photo op. Cavi. Toad. Rye doesn't have a volcano. It has a slightly steep hill where Pat Clifton sometimes parks his van. Toad. Details. Details. The principle holds. Give me the jar. Toad leaps out of the car, trying to wrestle the jar from Sfrandkaz. Sfrandkaz, annoyed by the interference, holds fast. Sfrandkaz, get your tweed hands off my historical burden. The resulting tug of war is brief but explosive. Toad, naturally, loses his grip, and the heavy glass jar slips from Sfrandkaz's gummy grasp. It hits the ground with a sickening thud. The glass, miraculously, does not break. Instead, the lid pops open with a wet PFFFT. A plume of thick, noxious, vinegary vapor erupts from the jar. Everyone coughs and retreats. Adolf Hitler. VO. Freedom. At last, I am released from the indignity of the brine. Hitler's head, still attached to the liquid and jar interior by a network of pale, stringy tissue, begins to emit a low, guttural, irritating drone. The vinegar steam turns into a focused cloud of aggressive, historical malaise. Adolf Hitler. VO. Now, I feel the power of the Rye dimension. I shall establish the Fourth Reich, starting with compelling architecture and the eradication of this ghastly automobile. The cloud of Hitler essence swells toward Toad's car, which immediately begins to rust, sag, and develop severe structural issues. Toad. My automobile. No. It needs preservation, not ideological corrosion. Cavi. We have to reseal it. Now. The head, energized by the ambient Rye weirdness, starts to levitate slightly within the jar. It is now shouting with full, unmuffled volume. Adolf Hitler. VO. The world shall hear me. I demand better road signage and the immediate surrender of that grey horse. He looks defeatist. Sfrandkaz, finally snapping, picks up the lid. Sfrandkaz. Enough. You are little head, not big plan. He tries to slam the lid back on, but the head, moving faster than expected, zips up and out of the jar. It doesn't travel far. It remains suspended in midair, a floating, furious, pickled organ, trailing stinking vinegar fumes. Adolf Hitler. VO. I am no longer confined. Behold, the final solution to the storage problem. Barney, shouting, "Oh, this is much better for the article. Floating fascist fights furry friends Toad. Get back in your jar, you insolent ceramic." Toad raises a fist, only to slip in the spilled vinegar and land flat on his back. Hitler's head begins to drift away, toward the center of Rye. Kathy, he's heading for the town. We have to stop him. Sfrandkaz, picking up the empty jar. Back to the pub. We need better plan than throw, apparently. The sun is attempting to rise over Rye, casting long, strange shadows. Daniel is wiping the bar, feeling the exhaustion deep in his bones. Pat Clifton, the postman, is nursing a lukewarm cup of tea. Pat Clifton, calmly, "So, just to recap, Daniel, we have established that Hitler is alive, severed, kept in a state of briny preservation, and is now flying freely around the town square, delivering slightly dull but highly aggressive political speeches. Daniel, that's the one, Pat, and I still haven't figured out how to get back home to my wife and daughter." Pat Clifton, "Well, look on the bright side. At least now you know that reality, even this one, is negotiable. If Hitler can survive in a pickled jar, anything is possible." Daniel, not helpful. Pat Clifton, just trying to maintain morale. "Now, where's Jess when you need her? She's good with difficult deliveries." Nat, the punk rock ogre, bursts in, slamming the pub door open. He is agitated. Nat, Cockney accent, loud, "Oi, you lot." The little floating geezer is in the square, and he's trying to organize a rally. He's telling everyone the Rye recycling scheme is a Jewish conspiracy. Daniel, he's what? Nat, yeah. And Constance is taking notes. She thinks he's a performance artist. We see Constance, the naive duck woman, entering, clutching a small notebook excitedly. Constance, oh, he's just got such passion. He said we need to focus on pure, Germanic forms of architecture like really big concrete blocks. I think it's very avant-garde. Daniel, Constance, he's a war criminal. Constance, ditzy, oh, everyone's a critic. Daniel, but the way he talks about the purity of the national spirit, it's just so dramatic. Nat, dramatic? He tried to get me to shave my mohawk. Said it was degenerate aesthetics. That's where I draw the line, mate. Dawdle, Super Ted, and Sam Payton enter, looking grim. Dawdle, he's causing real chaos. He terrified Godfrey into dropping his entire oat ration. Sam Payton, he's flying low, right over Mrs. Gribble's sweet shop, shouting about the failures of the Weimar Republic. We need to ground him. Super Ted, I tried to use my super strength to catch him, but he zips around too fast, and he keeps throwing vinegar at me. Daniel, thinking aloud, he's powered by the vinegar and the strange physics of Rye. He's essentially a very angry, pickled, historical ghost. Dawdle, we need to exploit his weakness. If he's a pickled ghost, what does he need? Carmel Bunny finally walks in, unhurried, slender, with her smooth West Country lilt. He needs to be dried out. In it? Put him back in proper storage. That vinegar keeps him moist and angry. Sam Payton, good thinking. Carmel, dry him out, neutralize the brine, and he loses his spectral buoyancy. Daniel, right. We need a vacuum. Or industrial heat. Toad, OS, heat. I have an idea. Toad enters, covered in soot and looking determined. Toad, I have invented a massive, highly theatrical hair dryer. We shall blast him with gale force hot air until he is a desiccated little raisin head. It's currently strapped to the roof of Pat's van. Pat Clifton, alarmed. It is, but I need that for the afternoon rounds. Daniel, ignoring Pat's protest. It's stupid, it's theatrical, and it's probably dangerous. But it involves heat and movement. Let's risk it. Nat, wicked. I'll drive. I'm good at high-speed chases and punk rock attitude. Dawdle, absolutely not. Nat, Sam, you drive. Daniel, you operate Toad's dryer. Super Ted, watch for civilians. Super Ted, right. My super eyes are peeled. A chaotic scene. The floating head of Hitler is hovering near a statue, addressing a confused flock of pigeons and a few bewildered residents, including Corky and Trip. Adolf Hitler, VO, projecting loudly, and therefore, the only acceptable form of art is the portraiture of great men, not this skeletal graffiti. Trip, shouting up, Annoyed. It's not graffiti, you pickled nut job. It's street art. It's got irony. You wouldn't know irony if it skated right over your fizzing little bonds. Corky. Timidly. He does have good projection, though. Very booming. Suddenly. Pat Clifton's post van, now topped with Toad's enormous, wind tunnel-sized hairdryer, duct taped securely, screeches into the square. Sam Payton is driving. Nat is leaning out the passenger window, shouting, and Daniel is aiming the enormous chrome nozzle out the back. Sam Payton, driving smoothly despite the chaos. Right. Daniel. Keep steady. Full power. Daniel, struggling with the heavy nozzle. It's vibrating. The duct tape is stretching. Toad. OS. From somewhere nearby. Give it a good blast. For history. For speed. Daniel flips a switch. The gigantic hairdryer roars to life, emitting a terrifying volume of hot, dry air. Adolf Hitler. VO. What is this monstrous wind? It is attacking my follicular integrity. Retreat. Hitler's head zips away, but Sam Payton expertly maneuvers the post van. Nat. Get him low, Sam. I'll distract him. Oi. Pickled git. Your trousers are too short. Adolf Hitler. VO. My trousers are immaterial. They are a non-issue. The van chases the head around the statue. Daniel manages to lock the beam onto the floating head for a sustained blast. The hot air hits the head. Immediately, the vinegar residue begins to evaporate, smoking dramatically. The head starts to shrink and shrivel slightly. Adolf Hitler. VO. Need my moisture. My structural integrity. I am dehydrating. I feel brittle. The head tries to escape the airstream. Panicking, it zips directly toward a nearby news vendor's stand. Super Ted. OS. Look out. He's going for the papers. Super Ted flies down, trying to anticipate the head's movements. Super Ted. I won't let you ruin the headlines. Hitler's head, in a desperate move, screams and fires a jet of concentrated, foul-smelling vinegar at Super Ted. Adolf Hitler. VO. Take that, you cotton-stuffed anarchist. The vinegar hits Super Ted's uniform. While it doesn't hurt him, it completely neutralizes his cosmic dust power-up. Super Ted reverts instantly to a standard, non-Super Teddy bear, falling helplessly into a large pile of recycling bins. Super Ted. Oh dear, I'm just a bear again. My boots won't rock it. Daniel, shouting over the noise. Keep moving, Sam. We need a clean shot. Joe Camel and Spuds McKenzie suddenly appear on a rooftop, watching the chaos unfold. Joe Camel, taking a drag. That Daniel's got grit, hasn't he? Pity he's wasting it on drying a dead dictator. Spuds McKenzie chuckles. It's pure chaos, mate. 5 stars. He looks like a tiny, aggressive teabag now. Daniel manages to train the air blast again. The head is significantly smaller now. Its skin tanned and tight. The mustache looking like a small piece of dried moss. It drops altitude, sputtering. Adolf Hitler. VO. I require hydration. I am failing. This is worse than Stalingrad. The van screeches to a halt. Daniel jumps out with the oversized hairdryer pointed like a proton pack. He gives it one final, powerful blast. The head shrinks to the size of a walnut, and with a faint, final PFFFT, it drops, bouncing lightly on the ground. Silence falls. The hairdryer immediately explodes in a cascade of sparking chrome and melted duct tape. Daniel approaches the tiny, petrified head. It is utterly silent. Daniel. He's desiccated. Sam Payton. Perfect. Now we just need to get him back in the jar and seal him for good. Suddenly, a massive, muddy hoof steps down directly next to the shriveled head. Godfrey the horse, looking more miserable than usual, has wandered over. Godfrey sighs. Well, just glad that's over. Could do we a bit peace and quiet for once. Godfrey shifts his weight, and his other hoof comes down with bone-jarring force, crushing the tiny historical artifact into the dirt. A beat of absolute silence. Daniel. Godfrey. Godfrey. What? Oh. Did I tread on summit? Sounded a bit crunchy. Hope it weren't one o' them fancy chocolate tea cakes. Daniel stares at the flattened remnants of history embedded in the rye pavement. Daniel. A slow, weary smile spreads across his face. No, Godfrey. Just a problem solved. A celebratory atmosphere, though still surreal. The patrons are enjoying a semblance of peace. Pat Clifton is attempting to scrape melted duct tape off the roof of his van outside. Daniel is serving drinks. He is less stressed than he has been in weeks. Dick Spanner PI, leaning on the bar. The case is closed. Daniel, the perp is neutralized. Geographically speaking, left nothing behind but a tiny oil stain on the asphalt of history. Daniel, I think I owe Godfrey a pint of oats. He's surprisingly efficient. Dick Spanner PI, closure is strange in this town. You never get a clean ending, just a messy pivot. Daniel, I'll take it. I need a pivot out of here. Carmel Bunny sidles up to the bar, sipping a bright pink cocktail. Carmel Bunny, you're thinking about home, aren't ya? Daniel, the little family. Daniel, yeah, every day. It's like being trapped in a dream that refuses to end. Sometimes I think if I just solve the weirdest possible problem, the door will open. Carmel Bunny, Rye doesn't work like that, darling. Rye is patient. It's waiting for you to realize something about yourself. Daniel, what? That I'm good at drying out Nazis? Carmel Bunny, no. That you haven't given up the fight. Think about it. You're human. You're surrounded by talking teddy bears and skeleton DJs. And you just dealt with Hitler's head. You could have gone mad, but you didn't. You kept your head, even when the dictator lost his. Daniel looks at her, considering. He pours her another drink. Daniel, so, I need to stay grounded to leave? Carmel Bunny, you need to remember why you're fighting, not just how. Corky approaches Daniel, holding a highly polished corkscrew. Corky, Daniel, I found this. It was under the bar, wedged in the floorboards. It's a small, wooden spinning top. It looks like a child's toy. Daniel picks it up. It feels instantly familiar. Daniel, I've seen this before. It was my daughter's. Before I got here. He holds it tight. The memory surges. His daughter smiling, spinning the top on the kitchen floor. He feels a sudden, sharp ache of reality break through the Rye fuzziness. Dick Spanner PI, observing. A domestic relic. That's more dangerous than a jar of pickled emperors. Daniel, whispering. Why is it here? Dawdle, OS, entering. The borders of Rye are porous. Daniel, what you focus on, leaks in. Daniel, I need to go home. If I focus hard enough. Dawdle, not yet. The whole point of Rye is that you can't force the exit. You arrived here because you were damaged. You leave when you're strong enough to stabilize your own reality. Daniel, I'm ready now. I just killed Hitler with a horse. I'm peaked. Dawdle, softening slightly. You need one more thing. Daniel, perspective. Super Ted, now back in his superhero outfit, flies down from the ceiling. Super Ted, we had a message. A communication from the wider cosmos. About the disposal method. Daniel, it's already disposed of. Ted, Godfrey crushed it. Super Ted, but the cosmic forces require symmetry. The spirit of the little pickled man must be fully eradicated from your plane. Daniel, how? Super Ted, we must introduce an equal and opposite historical absurdity. Trip, from the jukebox. Equal and opposite? Like balancing the tunes. Man. Dawdle, we need to replace the vacancy in the natural order created by the pickled Hitler anomaly. Dick Spanner PI, I get it. To kill the metaphor, you need a new, crazier metaphor. Daniel, what are we going to find now? Lenin's appendix in a tin of spam? Super Ted, better. A new delivery just came in. It was scheduled for the pantry. Super Ted gestures toward the cellar door. Bill Clutterbuck reappears, sweating heavily. He carries a small, ornate, antique box. Bill Clutterbuck, I don't know where this came from, but it smells faintly of sandalwood and excessive entitlement. Daniel slowly opens the box. Inside, resting on purple velvet, is a perfectly preserved, small, brown, and highly detailed ear, and it begins to speak. The voice is cultured, aristocratic, and French. Napoleon's ear, VO, from the box. Sacré bleu. The condensation is terrible. And where is my hat? I cannot conduct a campaign without adequate felt. Who are these plebeians? Daniel slowly closes the lid. He looks at Dawdle, then Super Ted, then Dick Spanner PI. Daniel, you know what? I'm fine. This is fine. I'm going to finish my shift. He smiles. A genuine, if utterly exhausted, smile. The chaos of Rye no longer feels like a personal attack, but the natural environment he must survive. He is anchored. Daniel, right. Napoleon's ear needs a secure location. Maybe next to the emergency room. And somebody fetch Godfrey some oats. He deserves a medal. And Pat, don't worry about the van. I'll pay for the repairs. He returns to polishing glasses, the small wooden top tucked securely into his apron pocket. Dick Spanner PI. To himself. He's tougher than he looks. Took a whole war criminal and a talking ear just to break his concentration. Dawdle. He's not broken, Dick. He's healing. He might just make it home after all. Daniel looks down at the wooden top. He closes his eyes for a moment, letting the noise of Rye recede. He sees the image of his family. Crystal clear. He opens his eyes, back in the absurd pub, but the warmth of the memory remains. He is still stuck, but for the first time since he arrived, he knows he is fighting the right fight, even if it involves Napoleon's detached auditory organ. Daniel, to Napoleon's ear, politely, sorry, mate. Kitchen's closed. Try again tomorrow.